retailers do to get customers in to buy your product. And fundamentally, this is a B2B or B2B2C strategy. And if you don't know what that means, it's business to business or business to consumer. And so if you want to lock in one of these things and you're a smaller business, you have to make it worth it for the distributor. And so if they're picking between you and someone else, then you can say, hey, I will help you. I will sell you my product at a lower cost than other people, or I'll add in a whole retail kit that'll move more product for you, or I'll come out to your site and train your staff for free. You have to add other perks and incentives that more established players probably aren't willing to do or don't need to do so that you can get a foot in to the door. So number 9, huge capital requirements, meaning it takes a ton of money to just get into the business. And so that automatically knocks out 99.9% of business owners who aren't going to be able to raise $1 billion on their first go. Now, Elon, for example, was able to do this with SpaceX because he's Elon. And by the way, casually shot up hundreds of satellites into space so that he could create Starlink, right? And have global coverage for internet. And there's other obvious examples of this. You got ExxonMobil, who has huge capital to go find, search, and then drill oil. Or like underwater oil drilling, like these crazy things that cost gazillions of dollars that you're not like, hey, you know, I'm thinking about opening a dry cleaning store or an underwater oil rig, right? Like it's a huge amount of capital. Or even simply as simple to understand as developing a new drug, like a pharmaceutical. It takes a ton of time, a ton of money, a ton of regulation. So there's multiple big things and a ton of money because you have to run the whole thing for years at a loss, not being able to make a penny. And then the day that it gets legalized, then you print money for like 30 years. But it takes time and money and regulation and knowledge of regulation in order to even get to that point. And many failed drugs that don't work, which a lot of people don't talk about. And so if you don't have a huge stockpile of cash, you either got to raise it or you got to not play. Which means once you do win, it's harder for people to enter. Because even if you do figure out the hair loss fixing drug, you're gonna have a huge years and years of profits and advantage over somebody else who's gonna, be the second player in that market years later? Right. And I'll say and let's scale this down to small business. So it's easier to start a social media agency because it just requires skill than starting a manufacturing plant or starting a business where you have to buy capital equipment. So equipment in order to make the business work. And so basically the amount of capital that's required in order to start the business becomes a competitive advantage in and of itself. And so if you have the ability to raise capital or even saving lots of money for yourself, you can automatically pick vehicles to start a business in that have fewer people competing against you. So you automatically shrink the pool. Number 10 is IP, intellectual property. Now, this is one that I think is wildly understood, but you've got kind of two basic camps here. So you got patents,